Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shah.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline. We are live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And continuing in the coverage of presidential elections 2019, we've got with us here a member of the media, independent journalist and poet, sometime poet, Mr. Malinda Seneviratne. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
How is the press reporting all the issues? What is the role? Are they playing a dynamic role, proactive role? What?
They're covering all the candidates,
Right.
and of course we know that media stations have owners, and owners have political preferences.
Yeah. All over the world.
All over the world. Like, and it's not just state media. Now, state media, if you take the Daily News, Observer, Dinamina, Silumina, it's like a free ad for, one particular candidate.
Right.
And then you have TV stations doing the same thing, private media stations. But overall, I think all the candidates are getting some.
We can have your preference, but as long as the coverage is balanced.
As the coverage is balanced, but I think that the focus, it tends to be like that because the front runners get more traction, right?
But it's obvious, isn't
It's
it?
obvious, but then at the same time, in a democracy, we have to listen to even those voices that are considered to be marginal. The other hand, there are 34 candidates. Now, I don't think if either you or I, we can't name all 34. We can maybe name 4 or 5. But what do they stand for? What is their...
Is it all this, so is it clear then that everybody recognizes that it's the same, all the issues are the same? No one party has identified one issue as, they may say this is greater than the other, but
Right.
all the issues are there.
Yeah, all the issues get laid out invariably over the course of a month and a half. But if you talk about development, for example, they're all talking the same language. It's as though the current, the dominant mode of development is the right one, and this is what we should do.
Right.
That is a big lie. But not apart from some of the left candidates, I don't think it's being addressed in that way. But apart from that, the major issues, national security, economy, poverty, climate change a little bit, international relations, and so on. And of course, this is the season of promises. So that gets more space than anything else because you're trying to woo voters, and you have to tell this particular group, this is what I will give you, this particular group, this is what I shall give you, and so on, like whether it's a business community, estate workers. But strangely, not much has been said about the North and East and the TNA's proposals, the TNA's conditions for support.
Yes. Now, what about these various undertakings or sort of assurances, promises in the manifesto?
Manifestos have not yet been officially released.
But they keep talking about or alluding to this, that and the other. Are the people in your role as a media man, have you noticed that people are aware that some of these promises or sort of alluding to events are impossible to sort of deliver?
Yeah, I think people know by and large that promises are easy and cheap. Their preferences for now, as you know, in our political culture, we tend to vote people out, vote governments out rather than vote people in, and then it does not matter what the other guy is saying or not. I mean, it's just a matter of picking up who is the most likely to defeat the incumbent, or whoever is considered to be the incumbent, or from the incumbent regime. But Mangala Samaravira famously said, infamously, that manifestos count only until the election results are out. manifestos, mandates are manufactured. Mandates are kind of dreamed up immediately after, because you can interpret anything any way you like. And there's no mechanism really to recall people from office if they are not, fulfilling their promises and so on. Or if
But
they're-
why have all these rules about election, the rules that of engagement, if you like, during an electoral process? Why have that all if nothing is done about it? Or if it's only done selectively?
So what does that indicate? It indicates something wrong with the political culture and also the institutional arrangement that permits people to say any old thing they like without any accountability.
But are the people in this current day and age, in a day and age where in Sri Lanka there are over 6 billion smartphone users?
6 million.
Over 6 million, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the digital divide is rather narrow now in Sri Lanka, meaning that
Almost everyone has access.
Yes, has access to the internet. I'm told during that Google balloon time, we found out that much of the country is actually covered, excepting the jungle areas.
Right.
So that might be a good thing, because any terrorists hiding out there will have difficulty connecting up to check their Gmail. But in the meantime, with all that in place, what it means is that the people have access to information. So is it that these false promises or assurances are quite easily identifiable by the members of the public?
I think that,
so they're not so gullible.
People know that, okay, you promised 10 things and you are promising 10 things to the country, and I'm focusing on one, right? This is all I want. And if I feel that this candidate rather than that candidate will probably deliver, I might pick that. People vote for various reasons. But when you talk about accessibility, literacy and all these things,
Right.
I saw a video clip about people being asked what Janaraja means, republic. And the answers were like amazing. It was so funny. No one had an idea. If you ask people about the 19th Amendment, they would know. What about the executive presidency? If you ask what is wrong with it, what are the powers? Is it true that the prime minister holds all the cards? They wouldn't know. They will say, yes, that's what people have said. I said, if I ask, so tell me what the prime minister's powers are and what the president's powers are. You can't detail it. They can't detail it.
Yes.
So there's a gap in terms of how people understand these things. Their comprehension of these issues. That's a huge gap, I think.
On Newsline, we encourage you to send us your questions by SMS 0772 300 305. We are in conversation with journalist, media man Malinda Seneviratne. Now then, thank you for your questions. We've got several already. Thank you. Keep them coming in, please. Can the media tell us how many presidential candidates have declared their assets and liabilities? Are they all?
You call me a media man, but I'm not really in newspapers or any media right
Not
now.
anymore?
Not anymore.
Okay, so you're retired. You're
No.
retired traffic control, aren't you?
Yeah, I help out. In fact, I should be at my daughter's school right now.
You have daughters?
I have two daughters.
Oh.
19 and 16. One is almost 19. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So I have some security/traffic volunteer duty.
Right. You're shirking your duties this morning, then?
That's the thing, you got to balance all kinds of duties.
Talking about shirking your duties, isn't that what politicians have been doing for a great number of years?
Yeah, with impunity. But the question you asked whether they have declared assets, I don't think that has been reported. Or if it's reported, it's probably on the 5th page of some weekday newspaper.
Yeah.
I don't know. They have not done that so far, all 34. Certainly not all 34.
Isn't it a requirement, maybe, at the time of handing in your application?
Yeah, but you can fulfill all the requirements, but the media is not does not have the they are not required. Media is not required to publish everything that all 34
But
countries.
is it?
It is a good thing to know who
But
has.
is it available for public consumption? I think that's the question they ask.
I think we can use the Right to Information Act and the Right to the Elections
Yes, but that
Commission
again, that's another application, and by the time that process is done,
No,
there'll be a
actually-
new president in place.
No, but the Right to Information Act, now I have used it,
Yeah.
and the Commission has been very good in terms of getting the information out pretty fast.
But I know, but why make it complicated? Again, it's surrounding this question. Why make it complicated? Why not, at the same time, put it on the net and then it's
I
there?
suppose the Elections Commission, if it so desires, can publicize all the asset declarations.
There you are,
But they are not
Mr.
required. Yeah.
Deshapriya.
He's not only Mr. Deshapriya, there are several others on the Commission.
Yes.
The Commission as an
Well,
institution.
he's the head. The head takes responsibility. So, it's all directed at him now.
Yeah, Mako.
Well, is it fair?
I suppose he has a lot of work, and this is one of those
What
many
about,
things.
is anyone sitting there and taking notice of the vast sums of money being spent by everybody?
That is why we should have, campaign finance laws which include disclosure. Now, if you are running for president for us, and I give you, say, 100,000 rupees, not that I have, say I give you $100, and you can easily choose to be silent on who gave you $100 and why. Or you can say, Malinda Seneviratne gave me $100.
Yeah.
So when you are president and there's some tender or something like that, and I get picked, then people can make that connection. So these candidates ideally should disclose who is giving how much, because that is the one way we can monitor how the president, after is voted in, deals with his backers, right? Because I am giving you $100 because I think you need money for your campaign, and I think you will be the best president this country can get.
Yes, I know, but I think in the US system, you can go online and you can check all the donations you want.
Yes, some of it goes under the table, of course.
Well, I'm sure that goes on, but by and large, it's there for everyone to see. And if you do get caught passing it under the table, there are serious repercussions.
Yeah, at least
legal ones.
Well, there are bound to be loopholes, and
Yes, I know, but that's no
at least
excuse as to why it shouldn't be done here.
I agree, absolutely. Even if we make laws and rules and regulations with the intention of making sure that things are done right. They may not be perfect, because we are imperfect human beings. We are humanly frail. But
Going down the ecclesiastical route now. Carry on.
no, not necessarily, but statement of fact. And but then that's why we keep amending these things, fine-tuning and so on. So if we had some rules which force candidates to declare certain things, it would be good.
I remember the public sent me messages today and sent a little clip of somebody being assaulted at some political meeting and said, this is a sign of the things to come, talking of the future. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, I think, and I would hope that whoever the candidate was would make a statement on it.
Lasanta's family would say that what happened to him was unfortunate.
Yes.
Mrs. Ekneligoda would say the same.
Exactly, and there are about 60,000 Lasantas, Ekneligodas and Tajuddins who came in the Premadasa era, whose families have not had a say in any of these things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many times are you going to exhume and bury all these people, and only at election time? I don't know how much justice is being done to the sentiments of the family by doing that. Tajuddin, Ekneligoda, and I have friends, I have media. There were so many media people who were just disappeared for the most frivolous of reasons in 88, 89.
Is life now considered to be more important than in those days?
Life was always important to to those who had the life and lost it and their immediate families. I mean, we don't talk of it in the same terms. We might use some other language, different vocabulary, but life is always precious. That's why we all have fear of death, and we have the will to live.
255 people were killed whilst in conversation with God on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, and who was with the killers? And who are the killers with now? Who are those friends of the killers with now? Those are also questions that are going to come up and are being asked for very valid reasons. But we got to move on also. We should not get too fixated with one single thing. This is an election, it's a presidential election. We are going to elect the...
There's a danger that all these important things are being forgotten. The people who were evicted by the LTT overnight still whilst a big number living temporarily for the last over 30 plus years. Over 65,000 homes required in the former conflict areas.
Exactly.
And they haven't made their mind up whether they're going to give them mud huts, takarang sheds, or prefabricated units.
The last 5 years we didn't see much of that happening anyway, but...
we saw a lot of takarang sheds and little mud huts.
I'm not going to get into the housing construction programs.
I'm talking about post the conflict.
Yes,
I'm talking about the post-conflict.
Yeah, but we got to keep it real. Also, there were a lot of. If you take the post.
What is real, Malinda? Do they deserve a house?
No, what is real is that in the post-conflict experience of Sri Lanka, where almost all the combatants, former terrorists, were rehabilitated and reintegrated into society.
So, should we say well done and forget about the people with their houses?
But if you compare what Sri Lanka has done with other countries, America, then we are far better. I mean, we have to point out the deficiencies. We have to point out, okay, you done this A, B, C, D, E, but why? How about F and X and G and what not? Yeah. I mean, you want to fight a war.
Those people without homes, by and large, I dare say that the majority of those people didn't have a direct say. Prabhakaran didn't sort of have a meeting and say, shall we have... This is a democratic thing.
Exactly. There was a BBC correspondent who once wrote a story about some rehabilitated LTT combatant who was complaining that he didn't have a job. And these guys were fighting a war. They were killing people. They were mandated. That was their job. They get captured or they surrender. They get rehabilitated. They get certain skills, and you want me to wash their backsides? Come on. But not all.
About the combatants.
No, but you are talking about ordinary people.
The people who got affected. They deserve to have a roof
not
over
only
their
them,
head.
everybody,
yes,
every
of course
single,
they do.
because the poverty, the development we saw post-war in the north and east outstrips any kind of welfare programs and housing and all, anywhere.
Well, judging by what has happened in the plantation sector, where the production of tea in Sri Lanka is 150 plus years, and the fact that the majority of these people live in line houses,
right.
150
That's an
years
indictment.
later,
That's an indictment.
Is an indication. I don't know about an indictment, but it's an indication that for the people of the former conflict areas, the people who were affected by the tsunami and waiting for homes, that's a pretty good indication. It's a good yardstick for them to know that in their lifetime they probably won't get it, because that is a sad situation here.
But we should not be too pessimistic about the future. But governments have failed. We know that. For 71 years, they have done certain things. They've done horrible things, and they have failed to deliver on promises. If you're talking about candidates and elections, but we got to be.
What about the people? Are they? Have you been able to spend some time with people?
I have. I travel out of
yes, go on.
I travel out of Colombo. Last week I was in Passara.
Yeah.
Went to certain places. It was the community water supply department, National Community
What
Water Supply.
What the people
There were we are talking about water. They don't have safe water. There are all kinds of administrative issues which is blocking the delivery of services that the government is willing to and ready to deliver, right?
Now, who's blocking?
Sometimes it's the estate owners or the management companies, sometimes it's an official, sometimes it's the communities themselves. They are divided and you don't want the pipe from here, you don't want to give those people, give only us. Politics, all these things come in. But what I realized was the amazing amount of work that's been done by these state agencies to deliver these things. They're training young graduates. Now, people have been recruited as graduate trainees, but very few departments are actually giving them the training that they require. But this particular department has gone way out of their way to ensure that these graduates know what they're doing. They put them on the ground, and I have gone to those. I went with them to some of these villages, and the situations in those areas are pathetic.
I'd like to comment on this, what I would call a pucker question. Can you get details of funds parties are spending for 5-star, high-class places and exclusive platforms where they speak of poverty and debt?
Exactly. Well, I think that if you really want to, you can do the investigation, ask the candidates, and their campaign managers are not going to divulge.
This is a great start for budding investigative journalists.
Yeah, go to all these 5-star hotels and say you want to have check the costs. You can do that.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about stages and all the paraphernalia that goes at the election rallies, you can there are people who hire these things out,
yes.
And you can ask them what the prices are, the costs are.
We had Ron Palliwakta here, we had the presidential hopeful Ron Palliwakta here, seated there, and he told us that before he sort of announced everything, he inquired about how much a dummy cover would be for a newspaper, and he said something about 2 million and something, and eventually it became 14 million.
Demand and supply.
Is that demand and supply?
Probably.
Or is it somebody trying to stop you, or maximizing profit? I suppose it's maximizing.
I have seen one dummy cover so far in this election campaign. It came on all the newspapers, Sajid Premadas's campaign. If it's 14 million, you take 15 papers.
Well, I mean, I think that was 14 million only for Rohan Palliwakta.
All right, okay, say it's 2 million. Let's say it's 2 million. Let's say it's 1 million. That's 14 million. Peanuts for some, but a huge amount for most of us.
Yeah.
So
but you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. So I think, as you said, a young reporter can investigate and find and tell us about the costs involved in actually running a campaign like this. And even a Pradesh Sabha election, where you are just canvassing your friends.
Sorry, somebody's asking this question, but going back to the plantation sector, there's some union collecting 5 rupees a day and been doing this from everybody and been doing this for X amount of years, a long time. What have they got for their money? How many children of the plantation sector workers have ended up in universities and are now professionals? I'd like someone somewhere to work this out and tell us.
Yeah, that would also be a good story. But
wouldn't it be
CT is not our main income source anymore, and there are more people leaving the plantation areas now than before. So there is some upward mobility happening, and I don't know whether the industry can bear some of the people are promising wage increases, and people have every right to demand a wage increase. If the industry is not viable, then you got to figure out some way. You can't just say, okay, then we'll close down the tea plantations. That is, that will be wrecking not only the lives of so many thousands of people, but then you got to have a plan to integrate those people into some form of productive activity which gives them an income and allows them to live better lives. I don't know if people have plans like that. It's easy to say, I will give 1,000 a day, I give 1,500, the next one will say 2,000. I mean, that is so silly. You have to have some kind of solid systematic approach to resolving problems such as those. So the question about what the unions have done,
Yes.
well, they are still members of the union. So
I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah,
It's
maybe-
like I asked somebody, I said, what possesses someone to get in on a bus, travel maybe 2, 3, 4 hours and come to Colombo or to wherever this location is, in the hot sun, in the heat, in a crowded bus, then to arrive at some ground where you're exposed to the elements, right? And then you get a butt packet and a bottle of whatever, or half or a quarter, whatever it is. And you get a t-shirt and you get the cap. And then you do the whole blessed thing all over again, going home. For what? And then they said, well, it's just like this. If you don't attend, and if you've got kids or family that you needed a job for or some form of official help, then the organizers will notice that. And then therefore their hands are tied, that's why they go.
there is an element of arm twisting in this, obviously.
Gosh, the hands are broken.
Yeah, whatever. But usually the guys in power have the inside track on that kind of thing, because they are the ones who are dishing out jobs and promises. They are the most likely to be able to deliver on something, not the guys out of power. But we have seen all parties do this. And, we have to ask the people themselves. I can't speak for all these, people who come to golf face every now and then. Who knows what their reasons are? There may be other reasons that we don't really cotton on.
Do you think the campaign is more through social media in this campaign?
No election, no major election, in my opinion, can be won if you are not doing the work at the grassroots, if you are not campaigning around the polling booths, if you are not canvassing the voters on a one-on-one basis. I'm not telling that every candidate should speak to the millions of voters, but they have a network on the ground, and they should talk to people. That there's no substitute for that, and experienced campaign managers know this, because I have spoken to several of them. And we don't see that, we have seen that happening on one side of the political divide. On the other side, it's mostly, as you said, social media, TV advertisement, cover pages and stuff like that, which I don't think will work. If it does work, then there's been a shift in the way things happen in this country, which I'm ignorant of.
All told, do you get from the feedback you're getting, is it that it's thus far a election that is by and large free of violence?
You can go back to 88, 89.
You can talk about the Mahara by-election,
the
Mulkirigala.
And we can talk about DSN Naka, who had a big club and said, "Me Prajatantravadi Araksha Karandai," near the ballot box, right? We can go back. And then there was JVP was threatening to kill the first voter at every polling booth. And a lot of people were killed in 88, 89.
So we've come a long way.
And then we had 1999 Kurunagal elections. We know how violent that was. We have come a long way. There are no stuffing of ballot boxes, lifting of ballot boxes, and so on. So I think that we can be, we have things to be happy about. We are close to, we are still 3 weeks away from the election. Yeah.
Someone's saying this, I love this one. today a politician's leadership is judged by gold face. If that's the case, someone like Sunil Pereira and the gypsies will probably be the winner, don't you think?
We do different kinds of events for which people come for two different, very different reasons. So you can't really, compare that kind of thing. That is
But that's
spurious. Yeah.
But see, okay, Sunil will get a lot of votes.
Who? Sunil.
Yeah.
But we have had the
He could have been the popular candidate.
People don't,
It's a bit naff saying common candidate.
Vijay Kumar Tunga was a candidate, he lost Mahara, right? He was more popular than Sunil Pereira.
Gosh, but the violence at Mahara.
Violence at Mahara, regardless of all
They
that.
did try to kill him.
Yes.
And somebody else died.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we have,
And such people are is still in power. Some of the people involved. But that's a story for another day.
Well,
Because
I wouldn't like to. I'm reluctant to say point fingers at individuals only. But there are parties, there are regimes, there are systems.
So in that case, we can't point fingers at anyone.
We
can't point fingers at the commission to inquire into the bonds, into the frauds currently, into the abuse of power.
But if you do that and forget the system that produces those people, then we are being lazy, and I don't think that we can afford to be that. Mahara and all those things happened in a context where the United National Party of that time, they had wrecked most democratic processes, and people felt this is their God-given right to win elections any which way you can. And they did it. And we've seen that happening. So you pinpoint to the guy who shot or the guy who pulled the trigger. And
even that they're having trouble in some cases.
Exactly. We are not in happy times
It's been wonderful having you on the program. And you've shirked your duty, so off you go to do traffic duty in front of the school. But thank you for being on Newsline. And that's the way it was on Newsline this morning. Thank you for watching. And we'll be back on at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning for 30 minutes. Take care. And of course, God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Ali.